What's up everyone, Michael Witzmann here, hope you're doing well, and today we're going to talk about spins out of grinds. So this topic has been voted by Patreon supporters. At this point, thank you everyone that is supporting on Patreon. It's steadily growing, doing a great job, and very excited to keep pushing this, keep doing this format. And I have been waiting for this specific topic to come up in a while now. I think it's pretty exciting. It opens a lot of doors whenever you start to learn grinds, whenever you kind of want to perfect grinds, whenever you want to do switch ups. So yeah, there's a very basic formula to all of this, which I'm going to explain in a second. And yeah, you can already see spot I chose for this one is the flat rail, simply for the fact that you can go with very everything goes down to the very same base, and therefore doesn't require much unnecessary attention to detail. I might get into a bit of ledge skating as well, but for now the rail is what we're going to focus on. But before we do that, we're going to focus on something much more important, which is my second pro skate, which I have right here. You can see it's been skated a lot already, and there's a couple of changes that I made. So all right, so basic around here is we're gonna have a light gray boot right here. The rubber patches on the inside, the little eyes that I drew. Gonna have a clear, transparent sole plate. Then you have the 3M reflective material on the top right here. And so right here, I grinded this down with my Dremel. This is gonna be a chrome rivet. We have chrome buckles. We have chrome axles for navy blue Icon AG60 frames. You can switch out this insert from pink to blue as well. This I just did yesterday is just some more 3M tape. I figured it might be cool to have more reflective parts. It's gonna come with navy blue laces. I switched them to white for this one. 57 millimeter flat profile wheels. Gonna be the ideal flat skating experience. Trust me, I've skated this for a while now. As you can see, there's the graphic on the back. Well, not to brag, but I drew this myself as well. And well, something to let you know that it's actually my skate, so my name's on the liner. And that's that. You can already tell it's pretty cold. I'm wearing a jacket. It's yeah, weirdly switched from summer to winter, so I'm gonna take some more time warming up. And so yeah, gonna put on the skates and get some first moves in. All right, I'm more or less warmed up. What's really important about this, this session in general, is very grind specific, very grind focused. I didn't really do much rolling around, rolling over banked obstacles or anything. This is basically just focusing on the grind right here. But as you try to spin out of grinds, make sure that you feel comfortable on your wheels. Make sure that you can compensate landing out of a spin, that you can compensate being slightly off axis, because that might just happen in the beginning. We're trying to aim for always being centered and like fully straight up whenever you're spinning. I'm gonna get into that later. But in order to feel super comfortable whenever doing the grinds, just make sure that you're comfortable just doing a spin in general. So try to practice your 360s, ideally both left and right on ground. I haven't done a video on that. I can do a video on that if you want to, just let me know. But for now, at least have a 180 both directions and be comfortable to land fakie, or if you go fakie and go to forward, to land out of that spin. Ideally, you have the 360 both ways, at least on flat, because it's not going to be much harder going off an obstacle, even if it's not your natural spin, trust me. So let's just get straight into this. The grind itself, I'm going to focus mostly on basic grinds, forward facing grinds, and later on into like the fakie and spin into grind and out of grinds. But going forward, basic grinds. Not going to do much of a detour here. Just very importantly, whenever you're doing a grind and you want to spin out of it, make sure that you're centered over your spot whenever you're coming off. So ideally, whenever you're grinding and you're not spinning or anything, you're not jumping, you're landing straight, like centered after this, as if you were to continue grinding the rail. That way, you're securing the ideal position, which is just as on ground. When I'm doing a 360 on ground, doesn't matter if it's like the unnatural or the natural 360, I'm always going to try to be centered, because if I were to jump off like this, I might have a bad time. So make sure to be centered, and for that, pick your most comfortable trick. We're going to start with a sole. I'm just going to go through all the steps. You see the whole rail, and you should also be able to see this line on the ground, which is very fortunate because I don't know why it is there, but it is exactly aligned with the rail. So what I'm going to try to do now, before I do any spin, is just to get a good stance on sole grind and then roll pretty much centered on this line. Slight angle. And that's it. That was, to be fair, a pretty fast approach. I wouldn't recommend going like too fast on this. Just go a comfortable speed where you can actually balance out, and then you're right there. Not always are you going to be perfectly aligned with the rail, perfectly centered whenever you try to spin off. Just try to aim for it. And if you happen to be like completely facing away, maybe give it another try before trying to spin out. The problem with this is, the issue that I try to address here is, whenever you're not fully on top, it might just happen that you lock out of your grind. And especially when you're trying to put in more energy, more momentum for a jump off, and and you're not centered, that might just be the point where you can like lose that grip, you know? So yeah, whenever you're fully on top, you can make sure that you have a good stance, something where you can like actually jump off. Also kind of relies on the whole switch up thing. So whenever you're doing a switch up, you want to be on top. But now for the spins, same thing. Try to be on top. If there was one way or another, if you wanted to if you didn't manage to be fully centered, I'd rather say you go over top, especially on a sole, because that way you lean over like a top side, and then you have even more surface area on the rail. You actually have a better jump off. The only thing is you're not going to be perfectly centered whenever you're spinning, making the spin a bit harder, but that's just the way it goes. Ideally, you aim for center. So I think I said it 10 times now. I'm sorry for sounding like a broken record. Having that first point down, I'm gonna stick with the sole grind. So the sole grind, actually, you can spin both ways off. There's always the left and the right spin. I'm doing sole grind with my right foot. So naturally, my hips are gonna be slightly turned towards the rail to offer that perfect stance, right? So whenever if my hip were to face that way, I couldn't properly lean over. So just a bit of a detour into the basics again. So yeah, ideally my stance goes over there, which already lets you know that I'm already kind of like introducing the spin to the right. And that's what what I'm trying to say here is, with a sole grind, there's definitely an easier spin and a harder spin. We're gonna try to start off with the easier spin, which is right foot sole, right foot spin. And what you're trying to do is, don't get too distracted by the spin off that you're gonna do at the end. When you're jumping onto the spot, you're still gonna focus on the grind. You're gonna focus on the grind all the way through. The only thing you're gonna try to do, like as you're approaching the end of the grind, is try to fixate that stance. Try to go less from balancing into a slightly more crouched position. That way you're gonna like set yourself up for a jump off. Not even saying spin right now or anything, I'm just saying the jump off. So you're standing like this, you're balancing out the sole, and then before you jump off, slightly down. I'm gonna show you what I mean. I'm gonna try to do the jump off as well, no spin or anything. So again, comfortable speed. Jump off the sole, go down. What I am gonna try to do now is just combine this centered stance, the jump off position that I put myself into, and I'm gonna just go with the slight momentum that I put myself in by doing the sole grind, which has the hip slightly facing this way. So all I'm gonna do now is, as I'm going down and I'm going to do the jump up, I'm just gonna like let myself go with the sole. Whenever you're trying a sole first time, I think that is a very natural way to come off. But now I'm just gonna do it with the jump. And now you see it was slightly over top, still it worked. And I think that's it so far for the basics. That's just all you need to know, is just record yourself whenever you're trying this. Whenever you feel like there's something's not working right, this is the very foundation of how to get a spin out of a grind. Now let's get to an actual spin out of a grind, because I think a 180 doesn't really count as a proper spin. I think this was more aimed towards a 360 or a 540. So it's gonna reset the camera. So we're just gonna straight build up from where we left off, which is the sole stance and the tendency to have an easier spin to the right, and we're just gonna build upon that. So what we have now is we have a good jump off, and we already have a direction where it's easier to spin out of. So the only thing that I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna also set up my shoulders for this. So ideally you have your shoulders like up here whenever you're grinding. Don't get fooled. Don't let anyone tell you that you need to have your hands down here whenever you're grinding. This is objectively bullshit. So you want to have your hands somewhere up, have them engaged. That's the thing. You don't want to have them like cramped up or anything, but you have them engaged. That's how I can still stand up here, is because I have them up here to balance out what I'm doing. So I'm balancing out this, and as I go down, I can try to charge up. And then I have my spin. This worked way better than I thought it would on the first try. So yeah, that's the thing. You have your hands engaged. for balance, whatever. Once you set yourself up for a jump off, you go down and you charge up. So as you would do, as I said, as you would do on ground, you have your hands like this, and your hands only go side to side. They don't go up, they don't go down. They only go side to side. Fun fact, this would be my switch spin to the right, but I'm just trying to say, don't get too focused on what is your switch and what's your natural spin, because sometimes it's definitely a valid thing to add, but sometimes it's just throwing you like off, like it's catching you off guard. And especially on here, it's more about the right jump off rather than the actual spin. So again, grind, you balance it out. As you go down, you charge up and just one fluid motion. You go down and up, take that momentum that you have in your arms, take that already built up momentum from your hips. And now one thing, as I said, centered, okay. If you come out on the inside, so my right foot sole, if I jump off here, it's gonna be slightly easier to do this spin, which is just simply for the fact that if I'm pushing off myself, I'm already halfway there. So if I'm pushing off myself, that's kind of how it's slightly easier whenever you're going this way. So either go centered or slightly to the inside. You're gonna have a pretty much perfect setup for your spin. So let's just try a sole 360 out. Hopefully it's gonna work again. Comfortable speed. Gonna balance it out. And that was bad. That was not where I wanted to go. I could have tried probably, but it wouldn't be smart. So again, I'm nice on top, not over top, down, and down here. One thing I noticed again right now for myself is that the spin out of this grind is easier than the spin on ground because you have this much more airtime right here. So also don't focus too much on your head movement. Try to see how you naturally look. That's the same thing with spinning into grinds. You see some people like really focusing on that, looking over the shoulder, and some people don't really focus on that too much. They go with their intuition on where to look. I would also advise this for spins out of grinds. I have never intentionally focused on where I'm aiming whenever I'm spinning out of grinds, unless I try to aim for a specific landing point or something, but that rarely ever happens. So just go with your intuition. It's all about having a good centered jump off. And the less you focus on your head, the less you have your arms like go sideways or anything, the less you're gonna be off axis, and that's the only thing you wanna aim for. So I'm gonna try sole 540 out now, because it is essentially the same thing, just more momentum from the arms. So comfortable speed, getting on a sole, down, and that was not ideal. I think I kind of like cheated that last 180, and it ended up landing 1 foot. So again, comfortable speed, balance. All right. That is my undoing of getting slightly off axis whenever I'm spinning. I'm just gonna say it's because of the switch spin, but then again, could just probably redo it a couple times and get it right. So yeah, that's the sole. That's all you need to know for the sole grind. Don't get caught up in like every single little detail, don't try to like rip apart every tiny bit of this trick, because it's more about intuition than anything else. So just be sure to have a good foundation on your trick, and then also just make sure, and whenever you think something doesn't quite feel right, film yourself, try to have a look back on this. And for all my Patreon supporters, great way to introduce this. You can always send in the clips over the trick review link that I sent out to everyone, All-Star tier and above, where I can also have a look over it and just go through it step by step, see what you can improve on the next try. So yeah, that's it for the solo grind. Let's just do a couple more and work with whatever is the natural sense of the trick. One of the tricks that I usually avoid to do, but I think it's a very good example for this right here, is a Mizu. So Mizus are essentially the opposite of a solo grind because one, you have your supporting foot in the back, and two, your hips are gonna face outwards. They can even like go as far as like 90 degrees outwards. I haven't found the secret of doing a good looking Mizu yet. I know some people can, I don't, but I don't care right now because this is strictly about the technicality of the trick. So whenever you do the Mizu, make sure to have your hips slightly facing outwards. That way you can ensure a great stance and also make sure that the right knee goes over top, ensuring that you have a good and solid lock. So this time, the natural spin would be out to the left. And we're gonna go for that, going through a Mizu 360 out, and I have some more things to say after that. All right, that's better. Comfortable speed. Go. Oh. So for some reason, my feet don't feel like they're together at all. They feel like they're just like independently going on a different journey. All right, again, comfortable speed, Mizu. Oh my God. Pfft. All right, for a trick tip video, for a tutorial, this was way too little control, way too much surprise factor to actually land this. But I think I figured it out with this final try, I would say, is just, I was pretty much centered. And as I jumped off, I noticed that my foot wasn't like a lot over top anymore. And that's an uncertainty I don't like to deal with. But, well, landed it, rolled away, not perfect, not pretty or anything. Just gonna go through a couple more basic tricks, but generally it's just notice where your hips are already like turning before. So you have an acid where it's already slightly outward, you have P-star that is already inward, and then you have the Joker, you have Machios, which are not facing anywhere. That means you can go wherever you wanna go. It's harder to actually get the spin out, but you are, like, it's equally hard both ways. Let's try this one. All right, so I'm gonna do camera from the back just to have this angle included. I don't know if it's adding anything or not. Feel like it might be helpful to show build up of the momentum again. So with the Machio, the thing is, we're gonna do freestyle Machio right now because the left foot is gonna be very helpful for our spin. Make sure that whenever you're gonna do the Machio that you're gonna be over top as if you were to grind a fish brain. You jump on Machio, but you can still lean over and just be centered again. Now your ungrabbed foot is gonna be your way of introducing momentum into the spin. So you're gonna try to keep it up for balance purposes. And as you go down to jump, you can push or pull up that foot in front of you to get the right spin, but you can also pull it up in the back behind your Machio foot to get the left spin. Let me just show you what I mean. I'm gonna do right spin first because I think it's just slightly easier. Jump off both feet, pull it up in front of me. The pull up in front, that way, like this. You can try this on the ground as well. just to see how it's going, like introducing a 360 that way. The other direction, again, behind. Not as steezy or anything, but very helpful. This specifically goes for grinds where you don't spin into it. So these were all forward approach and then spin out. So thing about this is sometimes it's actually easier to spin into a grind and then out because you already have some momentum that you can use. For this specifically, when you're doing a Makio, just straight on and then spin out of it, you're gonna notice you gotta build up momentum somewhere. And if you don't have 2 feet on the spot, you're not gonna build up momentum with 1 foot. So that's why you need the second one. Whenever you're doing a grab Makio and try to spin out, you're gonna do exactly the same. You're gonna pull up in front of your Makio foot, try to spin out. I'm gonna try to do the right side spin. Oh, well, that was not pretty either, but again, showing the purpose. So yeah, I can actually grab my tricks whenever I try to. Feel like just sometimes ungrabbed 1-footers leave more room for creativity, for unexpected turns. Yeah, don't get caught up in the politics. Do whatever you want to do. And that's the Makio. I will do the P-Star as well because I think it's just interesting. What I did now is kind of a bad example, but also good that it happened, is I started the spin on the rail already. I noticed that I was looking back on my back foot, leaving me to not fully spin out the trick. So yeah, that wasn't. That was better. The landing was kind of weird, but still, it's all about the timing. I just noticed again, is like whenever I'm trying to start the spin here, but jump off here, it's gonna be like a 1-2 movement. I'm gonna do half the spin here and half the spin midair, landing kind of like weird, awkward, not fully spun all the way with my upper body. But the commitment was there. That's why I came to roll away from this. Always make sure that whenever you're trying to do the grind, you stay committed to it and have fun trying it. And this sounds like an outro to the video, but I am gonna do groove tricks as well. So I'm gonna do a Royale, Fahrvergnügen, and Savannahs because I think these are really fun to spin out. Doing the spin the other way, which is slightly more impressive and a bit more like spin focused, and this one is it might just be the first non-intuitive spin. So what I mean by this is the intuitive side would be just continuous spin, go with your initial momentum. But now I'm gonna try to but now we're gonna go with the other side. So left for here. You might have noticed I was jumping over top on this one. This wasn't on purpose, but it is definitely helpful. I'm trying to be as centered as possible, slightly over top maybe. Ensuring me that I have a good spin off. And again, we're going at the same basis right here. You might have already stopped watching after the first Soul 360 out because it's all about I'm centered, going down in the jump off position and locking in that position. Just trying to fully initiate with shoulders this time. This time the hips are not doing as much work as they did before. Now it's more about like going down, then keeping that spin. This one feels more like the 360 on ground. And again, use the arms. They're here for a reason. Try to keep them all centered. Try to keep them on shoulder height. Like this. Always side to side. Helps a lot. And the more you get used to this, the less you're gonna use your arms like with your intentionally. So thing is, at some point you're gonna be so dialed in with spins to grinds that you don't have to do the full rotation anymore, but you're gonna do a more just a more practical way, and your body's gonna notice how much you're actually gonna need of that and how much is like too much. But initially, try to go over top, try to be a bit too much, and that way you can it's gonna be shocking how much of a spin you get out of a grind just by not throwing your shoulders, but like throwing your arms on shoulder height. Actually, FARF isn't really much of a thing to do because it's basically like a Royale, but now the jump off foot is the front foot. Yeah. Same as the Royale. Now you just have you have more weight on the front foot because it's holding the frame and backslide plate. What you can do is you introduce your shoulders to the 180 already. That way it doesn't feel like a full spin. Gonna do front Savannah just because it's more convenient. It's also halfway there. Like you're already 90 degrees on the rail, not more than 90. But you do have both feet on frame and backslide plate. So now, this one might just be the easiest one to 450 out, because once you're centered, obviously, because those were bad tries so far. Because now you have not only a good 90-degree stance, but you also have 2 feet holding a lot of surface area and also a centered hip. All right. And that's spins out of grinds, the basics, the very basics and foundations. Hope you enjoyed this one, hope you learned a lot, and just as I said, try to record yourself, try to do some repetitions, make sure you have your whole body engaged, and try to find your comfy trick in order to work further on the spins. And then from there on, once you get the basics of the spins out, it's going to be easier to adapt them to harder tricks or less comfortable tricks as well. And again, thank you everyone on Patreon for supporting, for suggesting this video. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time, and keep skating.